Savannah Rhodes was 42 years old. She had warm brown eyes that had learned to hide a deep pain and a figure that didn't fit the cruel, narrow standards of the East Coast elite her family name had thrust her into. As a black woman from an old money family, she was a striking presence, not for her wealth, but for her quiet elegance and the way she looked at people as if everyone had a story worth hearing. Yet, behind her back, the same people who praised her charitable donations called her the fat heiress. Her husband, Marcus Sterling, was one of them. That morning, the Greenwich, Connecticut mansion smelled of fresh jasmine and gourmet coffee. It was Marcus's birthday. The private chef had prepared a special brunch, and Savannah had personally ordered fresh flowers to adorn the living room. She had carefully chosen a high-end Rolex watch she knew he craved, not for the time it told, but for the designer name that would sparkle on his wrist in campaign photos. Marcus, 7 years her junior, was an aspiring politician, charismatic in public and cold in private. His gaze was that of a hunter, always calculating his next move. They had been married for a decade. No children, no scandals, no love. Sometimes Savannah wondered if the love had ever been real, or if she had simply imagined it, like dreaming of a beachfront house that never gets built. At 10:16 in the morning, she came down the grand staircase holding an envelope. It was a certificate for a $100,000 donation in Marcus's name to a National Children's Foundation. She thought it would make him smile. He loved looking generous. Even more, he loved seeing his image strengthened on social media. The dining room was empty, but she heard voices in the adjacent parlor. She paused, out of sheer habit, and stood motionless behind the slightly ajar door. And then she heard it. "That fat cow disgusts me, Mom," Marcus said, laughing. "I only care about her money. What did you think? That I actually enjoyed sleeping with her?" Savannah stopped breathing. Evelyn Sterling, her mother-in-law, showed no surprise. Her voice responded as if confirming something obvious. "At least pretend, Marcus. Do it until you inherit everything that's hers. After that, you know what you have to do. That woman's days in your life are numbered. Do you want to be tied to a body that looks like an inflated bag, a piñata stuffed with regrets?" They laughed with the lightness of people who feel no shame about their cruelty. Savannah swallowed hard. The envelope slipped from her hand without a sound. Her face didn't change, but her legs trembled slightly, as if the world had suddenly sped up. She held firm. She slowly backed away, climbing the stairs without her heels making a sound, and quietly closed the door to her bedroom as if nothing had happened. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't confront them. That night, they ate dinner together. Savannah offered a cheerful smile and gave him his gift. Marcus thanked her with a dry kiss on the cheek and feigned enthusiasm. Evelyn commented that the wine was excellent and suggested Savannah should try a friend's diet. Everyone laughed, except Savannah. She simply watched them both, with a serenity that was less about calm and more about planning. Past midnight, Marcus was sound asleep in the main suite, while Savannah walked barefoot through the house. She looked at every corner. The artwork she had chosen, the furniture she had imported from Italy, the grand piano she never learned to play. Every object was a silent witness to a life that had never truly been hers. It was a museum built to fit a mold that had been suffocating her for years. In the study, she pulled out a sheet of paper and wrote in a steady hand, "Thanks for showing your true colors." She signed it without a name. She folded the note, then opened her laptop. In less than an hour, she contacted a discreet real estate broker and a foreign buyer, and transferred the bulk of her fortune to a new account in Switzerland under a different identity. Having spent years managing her family's wealth, she knew exactly how to move money without leaving a trace. By 5 in the morning, the mansion was behind her. No servants saw her leave. She carried only a backpack, a long coat, her passport, and a photo of herself at 18 when she dreamed of traveling the world, before the Sterling name turned her into a trophy wife. 2 hours later, Marcus woke up. He called out for his wife, confused by her absence. He checked the kitchen, the garden, the bathrooms. He found her only as a piece of paper on the pillow. "Thanks for showing your true colors." He crumpled the note, not understanding. He didn't even suspect she had heard the conversation. He figured it was a tantrum, a stupid impulse, emotional nonsense. He called her cell phone. It was off. He sent texts. No reply. He called his mother. "Where is Savannah? Why are you asking me?" "She left. She just left a note. Thanks for showing your true colors." What the hell does that mean? Evelyn felt a shiver run through her for the first time. That same day, Marcus discovered the house had been sold. The buyer had wired the money directly to the Swiss account. He had no access. Legally, everything belonged to Savannah, even his suits. What Marcus didn't know was that the media was about to explode. The bank involved in the transfer had inadvertently leaked a statement to a finance reporter who had been investigating Marcus for corruption. It was only a matter of days before the scandal hit national television. Savannah, meanwhile, was sitting on a city bus heading to the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, a place where nobody would recognize her. She looked out the window, her eyes calm and her mouth set in a straight line. She carried her old photo in the inside pocket of her coat like an amulet. And for the first time in years, she breathed without effort. She had no fixed plan or destination, only one purpose: to start over from a place where she was worth nothing, to discover how much she was truly worth. On the evening news, the anchor announced, "The wife of rising political figure Marcus Sterling has disappeared. There are rumors she sold their mansion and emptied her accounts. Some say kidnapping, others say it's a marital scandal. Nobody knew for sure, but she did. She knew the real kidnapping had been her entire life. She knew that contempt disguised as marriage would no longer have a place in her existence. And she also knew that soon the world would meet a woman who had been called a lucky fat girl, but who is now determined to prove there is nothing more powerful than a woman who no longer needs anyone else to lift herself up." No one imagined that behind that silent smile lay a truth larger than any betrayal. Savannah Rhodes hadn't escaped. She had awakened. The bus advanced slowly through dusty streets, the windows fogged with the damp morning air. Her backpack rested on her lap. Inside, there were no jewels, no designer clothes, no expensive perfumes, only documents, some cash, a notebook filled with phrases she wrote when her chest couldn't contain the tears, and that faded photograph of her youth, her standing by the ocean with her arms open as if the whole world belonged to her. Back then, she hadn't yet met Marcus. Back then, she hadn't yet become the elegant shadow of a fraudulent life. The bus stopped with a screech. The driver turned his head without interest and said in a rough voice, "South Shore, last stop." Savannah stood up. No one looked at her. No one recognized the woman who, just 2 days ago, graced the covers of fashion magazines and charity event spreads. In this world, she was invisible, and for the first time, it gave her a sense of relief. South Shore wasn't a poor neighborhood. It was a wounded one. The cracked facades seemed to tell stories of fierce winters, broken promises, and hopes that survived like weeds between the stones. Children played barefoot in puddles of dirty water. Women swept sidewalks while carrying babies on their hips. A man sold BBQ ribs from a food truck on the corner, an old radio spitting out timeless, soulful R&B. Savannah walked the streets, observing every detail with a mix of fear and fascination. A taped-up notice on a house gate caught her attention. Room for rent. Shared bath. No questions asked. She knocked on the door. A woman in her 60s with weathered skin and small, distrustful eyes came out. "Looking for something?" "I saw the sign. I'm looking for a place to stay for a while. I can pay up front." The woman scanned her from head to toe. Something about her didn't fit. Too much poise, skin too well cared for in this environment. Nay.